This is Christina Barr. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr. Today we're going to be talking about a Biden spill. I'm sure we all saw that. I was talking to my sister about it, and he survived. He's fine. It's okay to laugh. And she's like, we're all laughing at this old man. I said, it'd be different if he was a good person, and he's not a good person. So, but also obviously that was a staged sort of event, so people could see Biden, how healthy he is, how well he's doing. And then he falls. And then when I first read the report, I'm like, that he fell. I'm watching the video, and he seems to be doing fine. And I'm like, is this the video where he falls? Because he stops. And then his foot gets caught in the, pedal cage, whatever you call it, and he just goes down. And it was quite a sight. But we're not going to talk all day about that, but it's funny. Also, Kamala Harris had a couple, interviews. There's one on Friday I didn't get to that I want to show you, but something crazy she said about abortion and religion. But also she had this interview with Joy Reid that was just bonkers about Ketanji. And it kind of seems like she's on the sauce. I don't understand Kamala Harris in the least bit, but I do understand. I think we all do understand that she was a diversity hire, and diversity hires are not working out too well for the Biden White House, not with their press secretary, not with Kamala Harris, not with their assistant health secretary. It's just all over the place with the Biden administration, and these people don't know what they are doing. Pete, with the transportation, it's all performative and virtue signaling, but not people who are actually competent and good at their jobs. Also, Disney/Pixar, they launched their Lightyear movie that's caused some controversy, and it did not perform as well as they wanted it to perform. And I've read a few articles explaining it, and they are quite, and I read one that was really long, at least it seemed long when I was reading it, and they went through every possible reason except some obvious ones, and everyone in the comments are like, you're not going to talk about the gay kiss, you're not going to talk about Chris Evans, how he insulted the people who didn't want to see it, and you're not going to talk about any of that. Or the fact that Tim Allen didn't voice Buzz Lightyear, the person that people have been used to watching do this for 27 years. 27. Toy Story 1 came out in 1995. And I know it's that long because my sister is turning 27 on Friday. So particularly because there's that scene in Pride and Prejudice, I'm 27, I have no money, and I have no such and it's a scene. She really likes Pride and Prejudice. We're actually my sister got her a Regency dress, and we're going to this restaurant that kind of looks a little old timey, but it's really good food in Detroit. Anyway, before we jump into everything today, I want to encourage you guys to go blacktnews.com. We'll also be talking about Juneteenth and some things that we're pretty annoyed with overall with the holiday. And in my opinion, it's kind of botched. And I knew that they wanted it to make it a federal holiday because of wokeness. But I'm like, but there's still things that we can do to kind of direct it properly in a way. But now I'm just after seeing one up close, after it's become a federal holiday, and the bandwagons and the complaints about people getting on the bandwagon, just the dumbest stuff. Even when I looked into people complaining about the Walmart ice cream thing, I'm like, the reason why people are complaining is stupid too. So I just got to rant about it. That'll probably be more toward the end. Just FYI, we will get to it, and I will release my feelings unto you. But before we get into all that, I want to encourage you guys to go blacktnews.com, check out different articles I have on the website, check out different videos and stuff that I've done. If you have not shared the Dana Nessel the drag show video, I encourage you to do so. I did not see any local press really reaming on the GOP chair for sharing it. So I'm like, oh, they don't want to draw attention to this, do they? So make sure that we share that so people can see it. I'm sure they don't want people to see it because it's a really weird hill to die on, but people are determined to die on it nonetheless. I don't understand. I even got to a conversation with someone who's a Democrat in the thread of when I had tweeted it, and someone's like, then they're a Democrat, and they're like, I hate that they're, on this bandwagon, or they're pushing it in, and so they kind of made it seem like it's a small thing that's like being amplified. And I'm like, I don't know about that, because they're like, in New York, they've spent like $200,000 toward this. So this is like a policy decision that they're like going with. And I'm like, and I don't understand it. I'm like, I would rather, and I said, I live in a blue, Michigan is a purple state. In my area is blue where I live. And I'm most likely, we want Republicans to come in and take over, et cetera. Always cross your fingers and you plan to make that happen one day. But in all likelihood, in November, where I live, I will continue to have blue representation. Okay. And I said, I would rather not have crazy fringe Democrats be the people in those leadership positions. That's not what I want. And it's not what my neighbors want. It's not what my family who aren't Republicans want. Like, no one wants all this really strange stuff, this really strange radical fringe stuff that Dana Nessel and other people like the mayor of New York and other folks are supporting. We don't want that kind of stuff. And I said, it really baffles me because it's not good politically. So it doesn't make sense on that front, other than just being attached to the ideology and the sort of moral decay and societal decay that could be attached to what will happen because of it. So, and I like to think people aren't as maliciously evil going down that route, but I know there are some people like that. But I would like to think we're not so far gone that everybody who's pushing this stuff is like that. And so a lot of Democrat policies and how they're gung-ho about stuff is really reactionary to Republicans say it's bad, so they have to double down on it. It's just really wackadoodle to me. Just really wackadoodle. But anyway, you can share that video, share different articles that I have on the site. If you like what I do here at blacktnews.com, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. I appreciate everything that you guys do to support. I saw someone left a comment like, run for president. And I'm like, I appreciate people who are like, run for office, but I really do feel like media is my thing. But if I had to run for office, you guys would have to donate there too. So go ahead and donate to blacktnews.com/donate if you want to support and you like what I do here. I assume people say those things because they like my voice and they like what I can do. Well, please amplify what I do here in the meantime, at least, and you can keep trying to persuade me in the future. On Saturday, I did have a Let's Talk About It with the Equal Rights Institute. If you didn't catch that video is still up. You can watch it on Facebook. You can watch it on YouTube. And the Equal Rights Institute is an organization that trains pro-life people to make better arguments. So we watch a couple of TikToks and talk through a couple arguments. So it was a good time. If you missed it, you can go back and watch it. I recommend it. It was like an hour and a half, maybe. Not as long as the one I did with Savvy. We were on for like maybe 2.5 hours. Her AirPods died and she charged them back up and she put them back in. I was like, oh my gosh, maybe we should get off because she hadn't eaten. And so anyway, we always have a good time when we have a guest on to talk about these things. Also check out different merchandise that we have on the site as well. Like, let me just show you one before we get to getting like the My Money, My Business shirt, really, really like that one. And let me just show you one more since 4th of July is coming up. The Constitutional is a glorious liberty document, so check that out on the website. Okay, let's get to it. You guys know I like to laugh before we get into things, so there's memes and other stuff that I have, but I'm just going to start with the Joe Biden thing because I did take his fall and I did cut a little bit of music to it. So if you haven't seen this, it's very funny. Every time I fall. Well, just one more time.
time I fall.
So, again, he's okay. But obviously, the Secret Service will be there with him as he does that kind of stuff anyway. But he had all these like press and people and following people on go-karts. I don't know how staged it was with all the people around him. I was talking to somebody not too long ago. They're like, yeah, I don't even know if you fell down like that and you had like citizens who were going to pick you up like that, and they just allow everyone to do that. So we were just questioning how staged everything was. But obviously something like that is for photo ops, and they want to make Joe Biden seem like he's a person who can withstand everything. And I think they're going to prop him up and have him run the distance with his whole entire term, which I would prefer because I really don't like Kamala Harris, and I would like to deprive her the honor of being president of the United States. She's my least favorite out of their entire bench of people who are running. So I really don't want her to take that oath of office and be the president. I don't want that to happen, and she's just bad on all sorts of fronts. But the Democrats are so pressed they're so desperate that it seems like they really are considering having to run Joe Biden again, because they can't just be like, Kamala. Because the natural progression would be like, why don't you run Kamala Harris? She obviously wants to be president. She's running for president. She's vice president right now. If he dies, she will be president. But she's so awful that she could not carry a ticket. And Pete's not going to be able to carry a ticket either. And they have other people within the White House and stuff, maybe who are eyeing the stuff that will not be able to carry that ticket either. And they just don't have a good bench. That the one waiting in the wings is like Hillary Clinton. And I've been saying for a while, I think she's really wants to run. And then I saw how old she is. Like, she's up there too. But if Joe Biden's going to run, and he's 79, I think, and Trump's up there and she's up there. And so why not her try to run again, especially if you're having these other people who aren't going to be able to get a lot of support either. And a lot of people still feel gypped that she didn't win. And, there's people who probably still think that Trump was a Russian asset installed anyway, and then that's why she lost the election. So she's been doing a lot of interviews. She's been working on sort of rebuilding her image and her husband's image. Like, I thought it was so weird. They both did master classes, and I'm like, why? What? So I think that's the person who's gonna, if Biden goes down, that she'll be waiting in the wings, and maybe even if he decides to run, he may be primary. I mean, things are bad on their side, and things are not great in the country, and it really seems like they don't have a plan, or maybe even the intention to turn things around, because they are so stuck on their ideology. And some of it's just blatant incompetency, let's be real. But like, as far as the gas prices and energy, they keep saying, well, this is our opportunity to shift focus on the other things. And it's like, this doesn't make sense. Because we're not there yet. Like, if we get there and it makes more sense to buy an electric car and do all this other stuff, we'll go that route naturally. But this war on, oil and gas, like, it doesn't make any sense. And then they still have that internally, but Biden's going out there blaming the greedy companies for not producing enough. And the companies are like, you're stifling us now, and you're also like kind of putting it out in the atmosphere that you're ruining our industry in the future. So why should we invest all these billions of dollars into these refineries when you're making it seem like it's not going to turn out to be a really good investment? So people are like, oh, well, Biden, his policies is not affecting the supply right now. Well, some of it is the supply for now, but some of it is, like, a lot of it has to do with our future supply, and that goes into their calculations for what we have now. So people who don't think that Biden has anything to do with the gas prices after he threatened to destroy the fossil fuel industry and is still doing things to stifle them, I don't understand you people, and I want to pity you, but it's so infuriating how ridiculous you are. So I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, you have these companies. They wrote to Biden saying, this is what you can do to lighten the load of gas prices, and he released a statement like blaming them, and then you had some of them write back and clap back at how at his stupidity, but they're still doubling down on it because they don't want to take any sort of accountability, and that's just how Biden is and has been. So they're not talking about prices going down anytime soon, other than like going into our strategic reserves, which are supposed to be for like big emergencies, because they don't want to keep drilling and they don't want to lighten up regulations and other things like that. So I hope you got a little money for a rainy day, because it looks like it's not going to get any better on that front for a while. But I want to show you 2 clips from Kamala Harris, and one, this is from Joy Reid talking about Ketanji Brown, and it's just like, again, I think she's on the sauce, guys.
What did you think when you watched that hearing?
I will tell you, Joy, I experienced great joy when I watched this brilliant, phenomenal Black woman, jurist, be so smart and just cut through the political gamesmanship that they were attempting to incite. And she just was composed. And as far as I'm concerned, was taking a whole lot of people to school.
So why is she talking like she's an 80-year-old drunk woman? I don't understand. Is it taking that long to sort of compose her thoughts together like that? I don't know what world she's living in. I mean, when you ask what is a woman and she doesn't know, she's not a biologist, that's not like, when those are the sound bites that we live with, I'm not thinking like, oh, she was so smart when she said that reply, when she knows what a woman is, but she just doesn't want to say it because she's so driven by ideology. So I think, I mean, obviously the Republicans didn't stop her nomination from going through, but they did utterly revealed her to be a partisan hack. I mean, that's pretty relevant. So I don't know what kind of sauce she's on, but let's keep watching.
And I watched that with incredible joy, because it was just brilliance being displayed for the entire country to see. And I cannot wait to see. That will only be matched by the joy that I experience when I see her take the oath to be the next justice on the United States Supreme Court.
So she needs some help. Doesn't it seem like she's on the sauce? Y'all can let me know in the comments. By the sauce, I mean alcohol. If you don't know what the sauce is, I mean, I don't I don't know what's up with Kamala, and she's like exhibited other kind of mannerisms in this, that kind of seem slurry and slow, and just not with it, just not sharp. So I don't know what's up with her, and unfortunately, she's not picking up what Biden's laying down on the bicycle, and we just have 2 people that are not fit to run a country. This other clip I want to play, she was asked about abortion and said it doesn't have anything to do with like religion, and there's nothing about it that can, I don't know, should make religious people feel uncomfortable or something like that. Let's watch it.
You know, for those of us of faith, I think that we agree, many of us, that there's nothing about this issue that will require anyone to abandon their faith or change their faith.
So I think this is rich coming from, for those of you who don't know, what Kamala Harris was like the AG and stuff in California, and the Hobby Lobby case was going through. which Hobby Lobby was willing to put their whole business like on the line if necessary, because there was the mandates for like the healthcare and stuff that you had to pay for certain contraceptives, and they're like, we're not paying for one that could be like abortion, basically. And so, and I don't think if they don't want to pay for contraceptive at all, I don't think they should have to. But anyway, they didn't want to pay for contraceptives that violated their faith. And California was one of the states that signed on that said that Hobby Lobby should not be exempt, because if one company gets exempt or whatever for this, and other religious companies get exempt, it could limit women, etc., blah blah blah. So I don't think Kamala Harris, when I heard that she was religious, I'm like, where, when, how? And I read a little bit. Apparently, she went to a couple of black churches and stuff, and it's allegedly Baptist. I don't just, a tree by its fruits. And there's a lot of people who believe something but have no sort of convictions about what they believe, and that worship politics rather than God. And everybody's religious and everybody worships something, but there's a lot of people who are into self-idolatry, or they make idols out of other things. But you can be religious, but that don't make it Christian. And there's a lot of people who say they're Christian, but that don't mean you're saved. We'd always say, like, am I like, but are they saved? They say they're Christian, but are they saved? So anyway, there's so much dishonesty with that kind of statement that there's nothing like about the issue that would hinder anyone's faith or go against it. I'm not going to go into a big rant about this today, but I just want to make it aware I do have articles on my website about this topic, especially the one that says, of course, the Bible is blatantly against abortion. And so that goes through, like, people try to bring up Numbers 5, people try to bring up an story about in Exodus about if you harm a pregnant woman, which I don't even understand why they use that one. It goes through a lot of different arguments. The free will argument, God gives us free will, so basically, why can't women do it? Life starts at first breath. It goes through all of those things. Basically, any sort of silly argument that you've probably heard from TikTok scholars is in that article, and it's addressed. So I'd recommend going to Black Teen News to look at all those things. But I mean, obviously, she's blatantly wrong, and just, I'm sure knows she's wrong, but she's just a liar. She's just a liar. And that's all I'm going to say about that today. I'm not going to get into a big abortion rant today. Okay, let's move on. I want to talk about this Lightyear movie with Chris Evans. So Chris Evans is the star of Pixar / Disney's Lightyear film, and Lightyear is a film about Buzz Lightyear. And it's not, it's, at first when they announced it, I thought it was supposed to be like about like the real story about Buzz Lightyear that's inspired the toy line, but it's about a fictional movie within this fictional universe that inspired the toy line. Like, let's say if you watched Power Rangers and then your kid was like, oh, get me a Red Ranger toy, that would essentially be, I guess, what this is. So movie is about, and even the plot within it seems like, I mean, I haven't watched it, just reading the summary of it seems a little complicated for a 6-year-old, because apparently this is the movie that Andy watched that made him want a Buzz Lightyear toy. But keep in mind that in the first like Toy Story movie, which came out in 1995, that Andy was 6. So it seems puzzling to me that there's so much controversy around this lesbian kiss, and they're like, oh, we're moving things forward, blah blah blah. I'm just like, I'm pretty sure Andy in 1995 at 6 years old didn't watch his mom didn't let him watch a Buzz Lightyear film, which is a kids movie apparently because it inspired a toy line, and that there was a lesbian kiss in there. If we're being like honest with like the mythology and the timelines and all this kind of stuff. So anyway, Chris Evans has come out against the people who had criticism for it. He said they're dinosaurs who need to die out, which people have been pointing out. That's kind of Islamic phobic, isn't it? And it was banned in 14 different countries. And China asked for them to take it out, and Disney declined. At first, they were going to take it out. And then after the Don't Say Gay bill, parental rights and education bill, when all the Disney employees were flipping out about stuff, which apparently they hadn't read the bill because some of the videos that some of the staff put out was just like very uninformed. Disney, I guess, decided that they were going to keep that in and not take that out, even though they've made different concessions in the past. Like the Mulan movie was made like right where like the Uyghur camps were, the Muslim internment camps, and there's a Uyghur, but the internment camps for the Muslims, and they even thanked like the Chinese like police or whatever in their film. They changed the Doctor Strange character of the Ancient One. Because the Ancient One is supposed to be like a Tibetan sort of person, and they didn't, because of the complicated politics of the time, they decided they didn't want to make them Chinese, so they went ahead and casted a white woman to do that. And then they went, he was supposed to be a man too, but they didn't want it to. When she explained it, Tilda Swanson explained it, she was like, they didn't want to do it like a painted lady sort of ancient magical person or whatever, so they made it like Celtic instead. But a lot of it had to do with the fact that they did the political climate and stuff, so they just thought it would be easier to just whitewash the Ancient One's character. And you had Disney Star Wars that shrunk down. I think Finn, did they remove Finn or did they just shrink him down? But Disney's made sort of concessions in the past, and they've done some things that were far more egregious, I think, than removing like a 2-second kiss or whatever it was. But it's been banned in 14 countries. So when Chris Evans is like, you guys are stupid bigots that are going to die out, you're not just talking to like, I don't know, right-wing evangelical Christian folks, if that's what he had in mind. You're talking about all these other nations that aren't cool with that. And it's amazing how tolerant they are with, like, they could say, hey, something like abortion is a woman's choice, and you're talking about that's actually like taking a life, but you're totally cool with that and that's her choice. But if someone's like, hey, we're a Muslim nation, and that's not cool with our religion, they're dinosaurs that need to die out. Which there were jokes surrounding that were good like owns of Chris Evans that I thought were pretty good that I wanted to share. George Alexopoulos did this comic where he had Buzz coming down, and there's a Middle Eastern child, and he's like, you people will die off like dinosaurs. Just smiling in the little kid's face in the middle of the desert. Also, this people who don't share my worldview will go extinct, says 41-year-old man with no children. That one was a good one. And there's this one, they're the ones who can actually breed, but okay, that one was funny. And then there's this article, Lightyear getting stepped on by the dinosaurs at weekend box office as Jurassic World Dominion sees 57 million plus. And so they have dinosaurs 1, Chris Evans 0. So Lightyear made 51 million. You might be thinking, oh, that's pretty okay. They were thinking that they were going to do at least like 70 million, but they, wanted like 80, 90. And so this is like, this number is around like Cars 3 kind of level. And Cars 3 was like really, really panned. And you have to remember, they're not going to have the markets that they were closed down in. I don't know if China has like officially made the announcement they're not going to show it, but as of now they're not going to show it. But they did ask for them to remove that scene, and they're like, we're not removing that scene. Now, articles explaining why all these people aren't going out to the film, they are really going around not mentioning this particular issue. Now, it's one thing to not love the idea of the kiss. It's another to come out and attack the audience. And I was having a conversation with my sister before she went off to work, and she's like, Hollywood is like the only industry where they don't want to play to their audience, that they will like scold their audience. They will give their audience something they don't want, and then they will scold them for rejecting it. And Disney does it like all the time. There's such resentment in the hearts of the people who make this stuff. And if you don't like it and you have any criticism, even if you have like legitimate criticism that's not about any of this, like about sexuality or race or anything like that, and you're like, oh, the plot sucks, or I don't like this character, they assume that you don't like it because of the gender, the race, etc. Like, you see that a lot with Star Wars. You really, really do. They hate you people. They really resent their audience and the people who've made them all this money throughout the years. So they mentioned that Top Gun is still doing well, and is still like generating some good money even after its initial box office opening, which I hear. I didn't end up go seeing it, but people are saying it's not like the greatest storyline that was ever told, but it's a solid movie with like no woke stuff. So people really, really enjoyed it. And people who are pilots who I know were like, oh my gosh, the scenes were amazing. The scenes are really great, which Tom Cruise actually has like a couple different like piloting licenses and stuff. So anyway, they really, really enjoyed that film, and it's probably gotten really good word of mouth, because I was mentioning to people, my family, like, I would rather kind of stay home and write or something. So I'm not always like rushing off to the movies. But I told my family, like, hey, I'm really hearing really, really good things about Top Gun, and people on like my social media like space keep talking about how non-woke it is. And so people want to celebrate a film that's just like, hey, audience, here's a film. Go watch it. We're not going to preach to you, really. Go and enjoy it. So people are going along with that. People went to go see the new Jurassic World Dominion. I think that's what it's called. And so that movie's actually getting some bad word of mouth, but it's only like its second week. So there's people still seeing it, and it still beat Pixar. Now, films in the past with Pixar have had to compete with Jurassic Park and other big films like this weekend in the past, and have still done well, better than the Lightyear film was doing. People mention that people are used to streaming and they're conditioned to going out to streaming. So why would they go out and run to the theaters to see something when it's going to be on Disney Plus in maybe like 45 days or so? So that probably has a role to play for sure. But people have been going back to the movies to see like Spider-Man, for example, which they got people hard with that nostalgia bait with like the 3 Spider-Mans. People went to go see Doctor Strange film, which was really like a Wanda film, I'm sure. But people went to go see Sonic 2. People went to go see Sonic 2, and that's something that's already on like Paramount Plus. I know, because my nephew's watched it quite a few times already. He says it's his favorite movie. He's 6. So people still went out to go see it, and people are still streaming it now. So I know there's not that strong of an urge, but they were still probably expecting better numbers than what they got. So another thing that people aren't mentioning is that people are upset that Tim Allen wasn't the voice of Buzz Lightyear. Now, when it broke out that he wasn't going to be the voice of Buzz Lightyear, people were suspecting, because Tim Allen is more on the right or more have a conservative bent, that he was being punished. Now, I don't know if that's the case, because Tim Allen is doing like another Santa Claus movie. Now, you can't really do another Santa Claus movie without Tim Allen. So maybe they had to buckle on that. But I don't know if that's actually the reason why Disney was like, no, we're not doing Lightyear with Tim Allen. But there are people who were upset who were like, I'm not seeing the movie because of Tim Allen's on it. Because they feel that he was being punished. Again, I don't know if that's why he didn't voice Buzz Lightyear. Now, I was actually going to do like a segment on my show and complain about it, and then I read up on it, and I'm like, oh, well, the movie's like about the person who is Buzz and stuff. But to me, now knowing more about the plot, that this is from a movie that inspired the toy, it doesn't make sense to me, because I thought it was like a real kind of person who was Buzz. But if it's about like a movie kind of franchise and the toys were spawned off this film, then why wouldn't Tim Allen be the voice? Now, not everyone always has like the toy line be the person who does the voice of the toys to be the person who's the actor, whatever. As a matter of fact, with Toy Story, Tom Hanks, his brother's the one who actually does like the voice of like Woody in like games and toys and other stuff like that. But you wouldn't, they sound pretty similar enough, right? That a lot of people don't know the difference, or it's a big difference. But Tim Allen isn't the knockoff that you put on a toy. Tim Allen is Buzz Lightyear and has been for almost 30 years. So people were upset about that. You had Patricia Houston, the person, she was on Everybody Loves Raymond. Patricia's her first name, but she was trending on during the weekend because she was like, oh, they should have had my good friend Tim Allen do it. And so again, I don't know that Disney was like pushing him out to not do the Lightyear film, but I think people were associating that with like Gina Carano and thinking that this was a pattern, and it rubbed people the wrong way. So there are people who legitimately were like, I don't want to watch this film because Tim Allen's not associated with it, and that's not my Buzz. # not my Buzz. So that's another thing. Another thing is that my sister was complaining about. She's like, Chris Evans claimed that he was done with acting. He was getting away from that because he wanted to do like politics and all kinds of other stuff for whatever reason. And activism or whatever. So when Disney launched their What If series, he was not the voice of Captain America in the What If series. They got someone else to do it. And so the fact that he was doing the Lightyear film, but he wouldn't voice Captain America in the What If series, and they got like basically everyone else to do it. People are like, what the heck? You couldn't do Captain America, but you could do Buzz Lightyear. So people, I do remember people being upset about that, but my sister's like, I don't know, it was like hair standing back up of her neck, kind of up, like annoyed, like she was listing the different reasons. So I don't think that played like a huge thing, but I'm just throwing that out there. There's also the fact, now here's why I'm not watching or didn't plan to watch it, because Disney's evil. Because they're evil. And I've gone into many long rants about it. It's not just about their really, really woke evil agenda, but also the way that they hate on fans, which I briefly mentioned. They resent you so much. You really, really see that with Star Wars. You really see it with Marvel. Their live action stuff, but especially in the comic book industry, that they've just destroyed Marvel Comics. I don't like them. I don't like them, and I don't want to support them. And I have not seen a Disney film in a minute. I did not watch the Spider-Man films. I didn't watch the Doctor Strange films. And mind you, Doctor Strange was one of my favorite like solo films that they did, which hearing certain things about it, I don't think I would have liked it too much if I did go and watch it. And I didn't see the Panda movie. I didn't see Encanto. I haven't watched that stuff. I don't like Disney. And I would like them to, get their act together and become a better company with better values and with less hatred toward people who made them all this money throughout the years. But I don't have much hope for them. Now, who knows? Like maybe they can have some kind of like turnaround, like Netflix fired a bunch of woke people. So you never know. They may learn from their mistakes and make some better decisions. But I'm not rocking with Disney, and I encourage a lot of people not to. But you're free to live your life however you want and pay to watch whatever you want. But no, you're just fueling the fires and feeding the people who want to you to die off like dinosaurs, in the words of Chris Evans. And there was an article that was quoting him about all the controversy about these countries: United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Lebanon, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, Oman, and China. I guess at this point, they were pretty upset about it. Chris Evans said, "It's great that we are part of something that's making steps forward in the social inclusion capacity, but it's frustrating that we are still places that aren't where there are places that, but it's frustrating that there are still places that aren't where they should be." And I I just think that's just a funny judgment, because when I talk to people on the left, and again, I didn't want to get to like a big abortion debate or anything like that today, but like I'll have conversations and see other people have conversations about objective morality, and they'll reject it. And you'll talk about like, well, do you believe this is bad? And then people will jump through all these hoops to be like, well, a culture, I might think it's bad, but if another country wanted to like say something is okay, and I'm talking about really bad things, like people will jump through hoops to say like, I think like sexual assault is bad, but if another country like it's legal and they allowed it, then that would be fine. It's like, what? Like they don't want to judge other cultures because they don't want to say that things are objectively bad, because they don't want to say something like abortion can be objectively bad. So they'll allow anything, especially if any other country or culture wants to allow it. So they don't have to judge them. So we can't judge other people with stuff that we think is bad. So and I'm not saying Chris Evans is going to follow down that bad logic trap, but I don't know. I'd have to get into a conversation with him about it. But it's funny how there's so many people who want to have a lack of judgment with other cultures, with other things. But when it comes to this, like, well, they're bad people and they need to change to what we dictate is bad. But then at the same time, you'll talk about, people will talk about the West and their ideas of a Western prescribed nuclear family. And those things are ideas of whiteness and Judeo-Christian values that's imposing our our systems and our values on people. But if other countries have like sort of similar values in that vein, it's like they're not where they should be. Okay. Okay. And they're really bummed about people not receiving this moment and this couple and this gay kiss. But again, I don't think that Andy would have been watching this in 1995 at 6 years old, and that would have been in the film. Call me crazy, but I do remember what life was like in 1995 and the sort of things I would watch as you know what? I guess I would have been 6 too. 1995. So, what were you watching? Like Lion King? 1995. Call me crazy. But yeah, I think there's lots of reasons why it's not doing well. But you know what? Coming out and disparaging the audience and basically, saying they're dinosaurs who need to die off, that's just not how you appeal to moviegoers. If people don't want to receive your art, they just don't want to receive your art, but you don't have to attack everybody who doesn't want to, who has criticism and stuff for it, you know? Again, my sister made a good point that Hollywood will be so upset when the audience doesn't buy into what they're selling, when other sort of companies are like, hey, there's a hole in the market. Let's give the consumer something that they want. That's how every other industry basically works. But Hollywood likes the incrementalism of social change. So you got to know that they have different agendas in mind. Patricia Heaton, thank you very much, person in the comments. Appreciate that. Anyway, that's all I got to say about this for now. I'm going to go on to the Juneteenth rant. And so Juneteenth is not something that I've been recently aware of, just FYI. Like, people were really upset. Like, there are people really happy about Juneteenth becoming a federal holiday, you know, last year. And there are people, and Trump was trying to make it, talking about it as well. I've been going to Juneteenth events for a while. Like I've said, one time I wrote an article for my 14th district for Juneteenth. I was asked to do that. One time we had an event in Jackson, Michigan, because there's a rock there that's like, this is where the Michigan Republican Party was founded, to free the slaves, and which we're in a dispute with like another state about the founding and stuff, about where it was. But, you know, whatever, we have our rock, we have our place. And so we had an event not too far from that. And I sang a song. They're like, can you sing? I don't know, they probably expect me to do a patriotic song or something. I'm like, pfft. And I started singing this gospel song. I go to the rock. I go to the rock of my foundation. I go to the stone that the builders rejected. Anyway, I'm not gonna sing the whole song, but yeah. Anyway, people really enjoyed it, and I also gave a speech about Juneteenth, and I still have it. I thought about like just retooling it and putting it on the site and stuff. But the gist of my speech was that when our nation was founded, that you know, in our Declaration of Independence, it says that, you know, we have these unalienable rights that are self-evident. And I'm like, and it seems kind of weird that it says self-evident when obviously not everyone had all these liberties applied to them. And I said, it's not so uncommon that throughout history or throughout the Bible and other stuff that God would move on imperfect men to push along progress. And so founders weren't perfect, but and the country wasn't perfect as they were trying to make this place and had to make compromises to get America formed. But it was the beginning of the end also to ending slavery in the United States. And eventually we got there, and we had the founding of the Republican Party that we say happened in Michigan, in Jacksonville, in Jackson, Michigan. And eventually you had the Emancipation Proclamation. And with Juneteenth, you had, after people were free and the war was like over, that people didn't, like, they had to go into the different territories and be like, hey, you know, we're enforcing this, and don't you know you're free? So eventually it got to Galveston, Texas. And on June 18th, they're like, hey, guys, you are free. And so once that was known, on the next day, on June 19th, you had all these slaves who were like celebrating the streets of Galveston. So that's why it's Juneteenth, because it was June 19th. And that's when they realized that they were free. Now, there's some people out there, like Bill Nye, the science guy, who believes that that was when slavery ended. So he was getting panned for this tweet. United States, we know today, was built with the labor of enslaved Black Americans. The last were not freed officially until June 1865. Let us celebrate and never forget. So this is not true. This is not true. As Joe Biden once said, you don't know my state. My state is a slave state. And you might be like, why the heck did he say that? Well, he was asked how he was going to be able to appeal to people in the South. And he said, you don't know my state. My state is a slave state. And you might be saying, I still don't understand why would he say that. I don't know, other than that's racist, and he's like bragging about being a racist, and he thinks that that's how you win elections. Okay, it doesn't make. There's no other context beyond that. I promise you. It's very strange why he would say that. But Delaware, for example, those slaves in Galveston, Texas, were freed earlier than the slaves in Delaware, and they weren't free until December of that year, when you had the 13th Amendment be ratified, which Delaware itself didn't vote to like ratify it until 1901. So there were, with him saying like officially, that's just wrong. It's just wrong. But there's seem to be quite a few people who are unaware of this. So Juneteenth is a special day, and especially like if you're in Texas, I'm sure you've been aware of it for a long time and celebrating, etc. And in some Republican circles, you've perhaps been celebrating because we do consider it like a Republican sort of holiday, because we are the party who was founded to free the slaves, which I did mention, and we go to Republican events, they do mention it, like we're the party for the slaves, the Democrats are the party of slavery, like, so it's kind of a great sort of attack the Dems sort of moment and opportunity. And I also used it in my like different speeches to talk about how today we still have injustices, and not everyone is entitled to their unalienable rights. And I went on talking about abortion, and which isn't too well. In the same way that Frederick Douglass gave his "What is the 4th of July" to a slave speech, which he gave on July 5th because he didn't crap on the holiday. He just challenged people to know that there's work to be done. And that's what I wanted to use my opportunity to also do. So that's what I would use sort of Juneteenth for. And people have their own ulterior motives for Juneteenth, and it was pushed by woke folk to undermine the 4th of July. That's just what it is used for. That's its purpose. That's its purpose. And I went to an event the other day, and people were saying things like it needs to be celebrated just as much as 4th of July. And I was concerned if people were going to say more than 4th of July. But I've heard people say that, at least last year a lot, that they wanted it to be, consider it to be like the 4th of July and like the real Independence Day, and to reject like 4th of July, which it doesn't make any sense because it's actually not the end of slavery in the United States. The important thing about Juneteenth to me is that you had all these people who were free but did not realize that they were. They still thought that they were enslaved, going on, carrying on like they were slaves, and they would have been none the wiser if no one had said, hey, it's over. You guys are free. Like, we won the war. you guys don't have to do this anymore. Like, if you want to continue working, you got to be paid for your labor. So I think that's what we need to remember. But there's so many people on the left who are empowered by you believing that you are enslaved. And so I was going to write an article yesterday about the biggest like Juneteenth fails. And one of them was going to be this, by the way. The mayor of New Orleans pointed out this art piece. And yes, that is like a hair pick in the background. And she's like, as Juneteenth approaches, we celebrated with an unveiling of the Lafayette Square. This sculpture is very fitting for this time and place as we celebrate the freedoms that we have gained. We know that it doesn't come without struggles, fights, and protests for the 200 plus years. So people were questioning, what the heck is this? With all these sort of Black heritage and pride you could do, you get a hair pick. So a friend of mine, this is Savage, she lives in New Orleans. She actually did a video when she like went there and was just like cracking up at how silly it was. And then someone was like, do a video with the song So Glow. And she did, and she's just laughing. If you don't know So Glow, you just gotta look it up. Just let your soul glow. I'm so tempted to keep going. And then she did like a follow-up video where she like researched it. So apparently that particular statue is like, it wasn't made for New Orleans to be there for that day for Juneteenth. There's no connection to it. It's a coincidence, I guess, that it's even there, but it's been doing a traveling tour. So it really is the mayor's fault that people are associating this goal this pic, like that you would use to like do your afros and other stuff like that, with Juneteenth. And so that was going to make it as one of the fails. So I was going to try to do like a top 5 list. I was trying to find different things, which there weren't enough stories. So I guess Bill Nye probably would have made the list. But I was like, oh yeah, I got to include the Walmart ice cream, because Walmart had ice cream that was like their Juneteenth. It was like their official Walmart sort of brand ice cream, and they had a Juneteenth flavor, and it was red velvet with cream cheese swirl or something like that. And there was such a backlash surrounding it. And I thought it was funny. I was just kind of rolled my eyes when I saw it. And then I saw there was such backlash around it that they apologized and they're going to pull or whatever. And sorry for being insensitive, blah, blah, blah. So I started reading articles about why people were upset about it. And I'm like, this is legitimately stupid. Because people were upset at like the I don't know, corporate greed, sort of the cash cowness of holidays, which, by the way, if you make something a federal holiday, do not expect corporations to not make outfits, to make clothes, to make food or decorations, all these things kind of surrounding it. Like that's just what happens. You know, you got 4th of July, people sell fireworks and have flags and have, you know, flag different bowls and cups and plates, and you know, you get the Yankee Doodle hats and Uncle Sam's, like everyone really, these companies aren't going to not make money during this stuff. So when you make something a federal holiday, which many people are like, I want that day off. Like, what, you want that day off and you want to get paid, don't you? So don't act like you don't want the holiday for your selfish intention too. Like you want to make a little extra money on that day too. You want, you know, so don't act like the greedy companies that want to sell you a product that you will probably purchase, expect you to purchase, is so evil. So they were upset about that, but not only the corporate greed part or whatever, and how they're just trying to take advantage of the moment or whatever, but also that they didn't pay their dues about it. Now there were some companies that made some like egregious sort of tone deaf errors. Like there was this one museum that was selling watermelon ice cream or salad or something like that. So people are like, really? Though a lot of Black people do like watermelon. It's okay. I don't love watermelon. But a lot of people across the board like watermelon though. Not just Black people. But they didn't feel like these corporations really paid their dues. And so the articles, like there's a CNN article that went into like systemic racism and all this other kind of jargon that they want to be associated with this holiday. So that's really the plot. That's really why they want Juneteenth. And so it was disappointing as the more I thought about it. I'm like, I didn't really see any American symbolism, because this is an American holiday. We had a president who federalized it. So, you know, it's an American holiday, but you're seeing these colors of black, of red, and yellow and green, like all this kind of stuff that's kind of more or orange. I don't know if so much yellow, but like just kind of more African tinted, but you don't see any sort of American flag patriotism kind of stuff. So you really had a president that made a federal holiday that's supposed to undermine America. That's why people wanted it on the left, because they wanted something different, and it's conveniently close to 4th of July to say, hey, this is our real founding as Black people. This is our real Independence Day. Again, it's not when slavery ended. It's not when the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, nor is it the end of slavery in the United States. It's not the ratification of the 13th Amendment or whatever. So it was important to those people in Galveston, Texas, for sure. But as far as the significance, there's other different days that would have been more significant. But this is one that's just a stone throws away from 4th of July. It's very close. Now you have people like at the New York Times who did the 1619 Project, who don't like the real founding of the 1776 4th of July stuff. And they believe our real founding was in 1619 when the first slave ships landed on our shores, even though you've had historians be like, that doesn't make any sense. And they still got Pulitzer Prizes and stuff. Nicole Hannah Jones rose to all this stardom and et cetera. And they will still push that and defend their work. And they want it incorporated in places and in different schools. That's one reason why I think they got the Pulitzer Prizes, so they could legitimize themselves. And so they could put all that stuff in the academic field, because they want these people to be indoctrinated in all this wokeness. So last year I was defending, I've known about Juneteenth for a while. And last year I went to an event that was like a Republican event, and we prayed, and we talked about, we said the pledge, we sang national anthem, and I sang the national anthem actually, and we had these Republican candidates come, and we had a little bit of the history of Juneteenth and et cetera. And it was, educational, and it was inspiring, and it was spiritual, and it was all those things. And I'm like, if Republicans can kind of, I know that the left is going to do what the left is going to do, but it's already done, just at least still push American values and stuff with it. But I posted this on my Facebook and shared an image of the Michigan Republican Party. And I used to work there. I was a little disappointed because I'm looking at the colors. Again, nothing patriotic in the post. And then the post was wrong too. It said it's when slavery ended. And again, it's not true. So between some of the silly foolishness sort of things that I've seen, and the fact that it's not being upheld as some kind of American holiday. And someone commented and said, and they're a white person, and they said they don't want to really participate because they feel like it's not supposed to be an inclusive sort of holiday, that it's supposed to be something for Black people. And you just kind of, I don't know, they didn't say anything kind of more than that, but I know you're supposed to be allied with the Black people, not something that's everybody's thing. And I can understand, I don't think that's supposed to be accurate, but I understand right now why people feel that particular kind of way. And again, if you're just having all these African colors around and you're not celebrating the American experience of ending slavery in the Union, winning, dominating the South and other kind of stuff like that, then how is everyone supposed to feel like it is an American holiday? To me, it kind of seems like, I don't know, Kwanzaa 2.0 at this point. So I don't like it. And then I had a different sort of stance when people were like, I think Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk were having a really sort of rougher resistance to it, and Matt Walsh, maybe Matt Walsh, but Michael Knowles, I meant to say, was having a big resistance to it. And they're like, no, this is clearly a plan of the left, which I acknowledge was, a plan of the left, and that's why they're using it. But it kind of seems like our side's fallen too quickly to allow this sort of agenda. So I don't like it, folks. I don't like it. And you can at me, say differently and disagree, but, and again, from someone who's gone to these events, who's given speeches and stuff, I don't like where it's going. I don't like what it said, and I don't like the true agenda of it. And again, we have an American president who signed this into law because the intention of it, from the woke folks who wanted it passed and done, is to undermine the celebration of our founding. That's what it's for. And to pander, of course, to pander. It's really, really to pander too. But who are the kind of folks that you're pandering toward? The kind of people who don't like our founding, who don't like our country, and want to tear it down. So I think that's unfortunate. I really do love this country. I think it's a great place for everyone. And obviously everyone who's trying to escape here knows that. That's why you have a border crisis, because so many people are trying to get here. And you don't see all these people on the left standing at the border saying, no, turn away. America is awful. You won't like it here. That's not what they do. That's not what they do in the least bit. Maybe they will if we keep having Hispanics turn out the Republican vote. Oh gosh, and we already talked a little bit about the race last week when you had a territory that's been like Democrat for over like 100 years, I think, maybe. It's been a long time. But the a place where Biden won, Hillary won, and you have a new congresswoman. But we got to keep fighting for the goodness of our country and all the things we've been able to do. I know there's ugliness in our history, obviously. You know, I was having a conversation at the Juneteenth event and talking about just some of the ways that people have tried to undermine Black people throughout the history since the time of slavery and onward. And a lot of it is a big like Marxism sort of push too, and using the Black community to talk about certain grievances, but also use it to keep undermining them, to keep crippling them. Like, again, I said the thing about Juneteenth is the people didn't realize they were free. And so that's the push of the left, that they don't want you to know that you're free. They want you to believe that you are hindered in America because of systemic racism, that you can't get ahead, that there's always this boogeyman white man trying to get you down. And if you do succeed, that's because you've been infected by whiteness. It's really, really perverse. But I talked about things like we brought up Seneca Village, which, if you don't know, Central Park was torn down. There was a village in Central Park, well, that is now Central Park today. It used to be Seneca Village, and there were all these Black people who own land. There was a couple of different churches there. They had their own cemetery, but it wasn't only a Black space. They allowed like other people to come in and have land. Like the Irish were treated really badly when they came over. Like they had let immigrants and other folks come in there and live in there. It wasn't just a totally Black space, but it was a space where people could come and make something of themselves. And then like I guess it was probably eminent domain. They're like, nope, we're taking this land, and they claim that they compensated everybody, but who really believes that? And it's Central Park today. And so, so that was one example that I used in the color communism, common sense. Manning Johnson talked about how there's all these Black doctors and stuff who wanted to get together and build their own hospital because people were treating them like garbage or whatever. Like, well, we'll just make our own. And the communists came in and were like, no, people should give you that or something like that. You should make them give you stuff. You shouldn't have to build it on your own. And so there's people who are always going to try to convince you that you're owed something to undermine your independence. And that's where we are today with the left. And, you know, that's why there will always be this fight for reparations. And one conversation I had with this woman, and I did interview her on Saturday, and she's like, all these people want to talk about, they want a seat at a table. I want my own table. And I'm like, yes, girl. But so many people don't understand that. So many people don't even want to get up and work for anything. So it's just bizarre. But we got to keep fighting the good fight. I'm done with my rant. I hope you guys enjoyed Black Tea News today. If you did, you can consider going to blacktnews.com/donate and supporting with a gift, whether it's $10, $20, a little bit more, whatever you can do. I really, really appreciate it. It does help with the cost of the website, the streaming, and all kinds of other stuff, traveling as well. So God bless you if you're able to do that. If not, I appreciate people who can at least share, tell someone else about Black Tea News, share articles, share memes, write in the comment section, you know, give it some more boost so there are more eyes drawn on to Black Tea News and etc. It all helps the business. So I appreciate that. Please check out different merchandise that we have on blacktnews.com. Like Trump 2024, make crack whack again. I also do write my own content, make my own books. I have my Super Kids series. There's some people who watch Black Tea News who have gone ahead and got these for their kids, and their kids really, really enjoyed it. But it's about a boy with an overactive imagination. He thinks he has superpowers. He doesn't really have superpowers. He teams up with his friend Kiara, who's way too smart for her own good, but she really likes him. So she goes along with it. So she becomes a Princess Lady Diva because she had to be all three. And then they help out Lee, this kid in their neighborhood. So he thinks it's real. So he begs for them to train him and becomes Stick Man. He's kind of like the Batman of their group. And they just go around the community trying to really do good. And these stories, or some of these stories, are there's pieces of my childhood in it too, but it's the initial idea of Super Kid was inspired by some stories about my dad. And my dad, someone asked on Twitter, like, what's a big impact that your father had on you? And so I'm like, there's too much to tweet. But I'll never forget when I was in I was in elementary school. I was going to say it was fourth grade. I think it was fourth grade. I had a parent-teacher conference. And I always did well in school. And my dad's always been a quick crier, very masculine, manly man, but, will cry for, potentially at the drop of a hat, depending on what it is. So my teacher was talking about how well I was doing, how good of a student I was, etc., just really bragging on me. And my dad, he got teary-eyed, just moved from pride for me. So I look up at him and I see that look on his face, that smile, those tears. And within myself, and I didn't convey this to him, but within myself, I just said, I want to always make him feel like that. And so we have a pretty stubborn streak in my family. My dad would talk about how you could see as a baby, I was very stubborn. He was just like, God help me with this, like wield this into the right kind of way. But I took that, I guess, sort of stubbornness and turned it to determination. And I strive for excellence within my grades in school and stuff. So I ended up graduating number 9 in my class. And I did things like I finished 30 books by my 30th birthday. I have 15 that are published, and 2 of those are the Super Kid books. And also followed my dad's footsteps in ministry and stuff. So that one little moment, and again, I didn't talk to him and say, hey, Dad, because of that, there was just something within myself that I just remembered and always kind of kept within me. And I did eventually obviously tell him that. But a small moment like that can have such an impact on a child. And I'm so sick of people who down fathers, who down men. Men and women are different, and together, united, they are very special. Like I love my mom and I love my dad, and the unit together is so wonderful. It's so wonderful, and they both have a part to play. So I'm very grateful to my mom and my dad, and that this small moment that a father can have on their child. And and not everyone has a father. It could be because they've passed, or because deadbeat dad, or single mom, or in a situation with the Lightyear film where you had 2 women. But I really feel like that dynamic of the man and the woman are so important, and there's nothing like a dad. And so people talk about wanting to normalize, and Chris Evans and some of his co-stars talk about wanting to normalize certain things. It's like you can destigmatize things. You don't want people treated badly because of their lifestyles and how they live, and etc. But the nuclear family, having that mom and that dad, I'm not gonna ever get away from that as important God design. And I think that is the best design that you can have. And I'm grateful to be one of those kids in the pew, I guess, because it's always getting smaller and smaller and smaller, especially within the Black community that had a 2-parent home. But I love my dad. He's a good dad, and God bless him. He's a very proud papa. He's a very proud papa. Anyway, God bless you guys. And